If you click on this video, I want to congratulate you for taking an interest in the MCAT exam. All the studying, preparation, and test can be a little daunting. So today, I interviewed my friend Pablo, who recently got a 521. That put him in the 98th percentile and got him into several med schools that he's gonna choose from. So in this video, he shares some of his best tips and recommendations for you to get the same score. Let's get to it. All right, so very quickly, tell me what's the exam format of the MCAT and what was the topic that you struggle with the most?
The format is 4 subjects: biology, biochemistry, physics, critical analysis and reading, and psychology and sociology. And surprisingly, what I struggled with the most was psychology and sociology, which normally is the easiest one for most people.
Okay, and so here will be your score breakdown if you're good with that. And I remember that psychology was one that you did the worst.
Yeah.
But was that the one that was the hardest to study for?
I think for me personally, it was the hardest to study for, because for the other ones, it was more of like kind of what I majored in most of the time. Like the classes that I at least took was psychology and sociology, so I had to like learn that from scratch. Like for example, I never even took sociology as a class in undergraduate, but I had taken enough like biology, physics, chemistry, so for me it was just like remembering those things and applying them. But the psychology and sociology was, I had to like learn it from you, so.
And then the format as far as like how many questions and how long it is, what is it?
So each section, except for the critical analysis and reading, which is a little different, it's a little less, is 59 questions and you have like an hour and a half. Okay. For the critical analysis, it's 53 questions and you have a little bit less time.
Okay.
So and the test overall with breaks is like 8 hours.
Okay. Wow, crazy. And then last sub question from that is, from 100% of the topics that you study for this exam, what percentage did you have to learn from scratch because you didn't learn in college? Being you were a biochemistry and
biochemistry and molecular biology, that was like my major's name. And then I did a little bit of engineering, but that kind of helped me, I guess, a little bit. But my major like covered a big kind of percentage of that, so I think from scratch I had to learn maybe like 20%.
Okay.
But also I like chose certain classes, like 1 or 2 classes in my undergraduate years, because I knew that was going to be like, that would help me on the MCAT. Like I didn't need to take like human physiology, but I knew that was going to help me for the MCAT, so I took it. Okay.
Talk about your study routine. So obviously I know you personally, you are a teacher, you took 2 years off before you start med school. How's your study routine as far as hours during the week studying for the MCAT?
Yeah, so I'll tell you what normally people do and then what I did. So normally what people do is that they take a summer to study, and they take like the 3 months in the summer to just, that's what they dedicate themselves to. Maybe they have something like a part-time thing on the side, but they like study most of the time in the summer, 3 months, like 6 hours a day or something like that. I didn't have the opportunity to do that because I had a full-time job, so I would go to work and then I would come home and study for like 2 hours every day. I take Saturdays breaks, and most Sundays I was doing full-length practice exams, which is the most important thing.
Crazy. So that's gonna be one of my last questions, but how many mocks do you take fully?
I took, I think, like 10 tests, so that's 10 Sundays, like, and then also you like preferably want to pretend that it is the actual test, and it's like waking up early, no interruptions, kind of just like if it was a test.
For me, for example, never taking the MCAT, but for like the CFA, the biggest thing is also training your body to not have to go to the bathroom for 2 hours. It's an important thing, all jokes aside. So yeah, next question is study prep. So first one is, what was the study prep that you used?
So you kind of go learning once like you go online, you start seeing like what everyone uses, and like out of everything, not everything necessarily works for everyone. So what worked for me was, so I prioritized the materials from the AAMC, which is the people who make the test. They also give you materials. So specifically like the section bank, which is just like 300 questions, like I left those towards the end of my studying routine because I wanted it closest to the test. And then they also provide 4 mock exams, which are like out of all the mock exams that are online, those are the ones that are going to be most like the test. So I also did those 4 last. They also have other question banks on. So I did all of the AMC stuff, or almost everything, towards the end. In the beginning, I was doing mock exams that are from other companies. That a lot of them are free. I never paid. The only ones, all the materials I paid for was for the AAMC. All the other materials, I just like went to different sites and got some free ones. Like Princeton Review has like 1 or 2 mock exams. I think Kaplan has one, Blueprint has another one. And specifically for the critical analysis and reading section, which is super, super important, and that's the one that people struggle with the most. I highly recommend Jack Weston, which is like just like a whole repository of like questions about anything, but specifically for the critical analysis and reading, which we abbreviate CARS. They give you one passage with a set of questions every day, like a new one, like their daily passage. And the way I studied for that, I didn't set aside time to really study for the CARS. I just did that every single day.
Because you got it in your email and you just answer it?
I mean, I guess you can put notifications, but I mean, I just went to the site. I would like read the passage for like 10 minutes and answer the questions every single day for months. And that was the best, because CARS you can't really study. It's more of like practice.
Right.
And the best part is that I think what helped me out a lot, which I didn't have anywhere else, is that once you answer the questions, you can see everyone who's done that passage for that day and see like what percentage of students chose each answer, like whether you got it right or wrong. So, so that was really helpful.
And then the books that you use, that I've seen it multiple times at your house, that was
Princeton Review. Yeah. So
how much were all the books?
I actually got them for free because, you
got them used?
I had them used.
Do you recommend getting them used?
Depends. So like luckily I got them used and they weren't written on, and like the practice tests on those books weren't written on, and there was no highlights, which was like a big thing. So I'm a big highlighter. Right. So if the book had been highlighted, I might have bought them. But because they weren't, I used them. So
the price for the Princeton Reviews is this.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, and then a little bit about traceback, but for your study routine, you were saying that you do 2 hours every day. Saturdays you will take off, and then weekends you will do like maybe like 4 to 6. So it's probably 16, 20 hours a week, you'll say. How many weeks or months do you study in total?
Oh yeah, so because I was doing it like little by little over time because of the job, I studied like almost 6 months.
Okay.
So from like August, I took my test in mid-January, and I studied from like mid-August.
And that's what you recommend?
I mean, I think everyone's situation is different. Like some people are still in school, like haven't even taken all the classes required for the test. Some people are taking gap years. Some people have full-time jobs. Some people don't have full-time jobs. So I think everyone's different. That worked for me. You just have to know how you study and know like how much preparation you need, and then like fix your schedule and stuff for that. So I don't know.
Cool. So for the CFA, the exam that I take, we have readings, and then for every reading, I already have my own process of knowing that I'm gonna read it first, then create like a very short summary, formulas, and all that stuff. For each chapter, I don't know if that's a breakdown for the MCAT. What was your way of targeting it? Like each one was like you will read it, highlight, and then what will you do?
So so the MCAT is like passages. Okay. Most of the test is passages, and then questions on those passages, and then there was also like some standalone questions. So like out of the 59 questions, maybe like 40 of them were like associated with a passage, and then the rest were just memorizing questions. But in general, all the questions are 3 types. You either have questions that you can only get the answer from the passage, so you need no prior knowledge, you just need to know how to read the passage. Questions that are completely memorization, so you don't need the passage at all. And then questions that are like a mix of both, like you need information from the passage, but you also need like prior knowledge. So because of that, there's a lot of information on the passage that you do not need, right? So what I would do was I would like read the passage like once quickly, then read all the questions associated with the passage, and then try to like see which questions are the ones that I need the passage to answer. Right. And then try to find those answers in the passage, and then like try to answer all the other questions. So like the point is like I would skim quickly. Like I would not try to understand every single little detail from the passage, because they make those passages difficult on purpose. Like you can like, they're gonna throw things at you that you have never heard of before. And they're also trying to assess whether you can like weed through that nonsense information, or I guess information that you don't need, to answer the question correctly. Okay.
And then, so you were saying that you took around 10 mocks, right? Yeah. Okay. How did your score of the mocks compare to the 521 that you got?
That's a good question. So because I took 10 mocks and I didn't pay for any of them except for the AMC ones, like all those tests are, because they're from different companies, they're completely different. So let's say all the other companies, like the Blueprint, Princeton Review, and Kaplan, like those mocks were harder than the test. Right. So
Like always, usually test prep providers
right,
are like
exactly.
harder than the
They're
test.
harder than the test. And speaking of tests, Blueprint has like it's very unique where it's like the mock is half length test, so it's like a diagnostic. Right. So you have like the first score. So that one kind of tells you where you're at. Excuse me. And then the Princeton review and all the actual full length tests I took later on. I did much worse than my goal. So my goal initially was like a 518. So I was way below that. And then once I started taking the AAMC ones, those were the most like the tests that were easier. And then I started doing better on those. And then I think throughout, like the first one I did low, but then the next ones just kept going up and up and up and up.
Right.
And then I think the last one, I got like a 518. So I was like, okay, I like reached my goal on the mock. And then that's what I expected on the test. And then, I guess, I don't know, with the test kind of adrenaline.
Right, yeah, usually you do better on the exam. That's awesome. All right, last question is, what was one mistake that you did when studying for the MCAT?
A mistake?
Or maybe something that you would do a little different.
That's a good question. Maybe not like focusing so much in the beginning on like the books, because like what I did in the beginning was like highlighting through the Princeton review, and like that was a good refresher. But I would also try to find like diversity in like where you're getting your information from, because if you get the information from different sources, it's presented in a different way. So like Khan Academy is a great other resource. So like if you don't understand a concept, like don't spend your time like wasting your time on things that you already know. So just like skim through that stuff quickly so you remember, and then just on the stuff that you don't know, like read it from the book, get it from a video, like maybe go to like, I don't know, if you're still in school, like you can go to like tutoring sessions or like office hours, some people who might know, and they can explain that stuff to you. So
cool. Well, bonus question is, how many schools did you apply, and what are your top 3 contenders of schools you got into?
So I initially applied to 19, and then at the end I got stressed, so I applied to 4 more. So total was 23 only 23 schools, which is somewhat like of an average. I've heard more and less, but normally it's like 20. And then my top 3 schools right now are
that you got into?
That I got into are UPenn, BU, which is where I graduated from, and a school in Illinois called Carl, which is a brand new medical school that's focused on like engineers, like medical tech.
Cool.
Yeah.
So if you want to see Paulo's experience applying to med school and other things, comment below, we'll do it. Any last words?
I mean, good luck for anyone. I know it's a tough process, so I mean...
Is it rewarding?
Yeah, I haven't gotten to the rewarding part yet, but...
You got the score, score, so hopefully it is. Subscribe, thank you so much. See you next time. Peace.
No vas a hacer eso.